What is going on, eyes and ears of the hockey world? Today we're back with another NHL prediction video for the 2024-2025 season. And boy, do we got a good one here today because the Atlantic Division, whew, anything can happen. We've already done the Metro, Central, and Pacific prediction videos, but we're finally with the last division here in the East in the Atlantic. So without further ado, let's get right into the video with who I think will finish last in the Atlantic Division. Coming in at number 8, I have the Montreal Canadiens with 67 points, a 9-point regression from last year. A lot of people think this team is going to get better just because they're young, but if you look at this roster, they are not good. I mean, the only positives really are Cole Caulfield is fun to watch. Yurov Slavkovsky seems to be getting better. Nick Suzuki is a solid captain. Lane Hudson can freaking skate. I mean, he's fun to watch too. I'm excited for what his rookie season is going to look like. But other than that, I mean, they have zero depth. Their blue line is awful. Their goalies are mid, especially after trading Jake Allen last year. I mean, especially with how much good teams there are in the East and in the Atlantic specifically, I don't see this team winning a lot of games, and I have them getting worse. I mean, their future's bright. They're probably going to be good in a couple years or so, but right now, I mean, I have them at 67 points. One of the worst teams in the league. I think they're a pretty easy spot for 8th in the Atlantic this year. So already things might start to get controversial and sad for me because I do cheer for the Red Wings on the side. I think that they will not make the playoffs next year the way that a lot of people think they will. They lost some key pieces, David Perron, Shane Gostisbehere, which is good blue line depth, and also they lost the best player in the league in Daniel Sprong. But if you look at the roster, they really only have 2 lines. It's 2 really good lines, especially with the addition of Vladimir Tarasenko, but their blue line is still horrible. I like the addition of Eric Gustafson from New York, but other than that, I feel like they needed more blue line depth, and their defense is just not very good. They let in a lot of goals. They bring in Cam Talbot, and I think Alex Lyon is a pretty decent goalie. I think he's only going to get better too. But I just don't think they have a ton of scoring depth. Their top 6 will score a lot, but I mean, even that top 6, they're getting kind of old. They had a nice miracle run, a lot of energetic kind of miracle games at the end of the year last year. At the end of the day, they didn't make the playoffs, and I think they maybe even got a little bit worse this offseason. So I have them missing the playoffs again. As much as I would like them to make the playoffs, I think playoffs in Hockey Town would be super fun, but I mean, we'll just have to see about this roster and how much they can produce consistently throughout the season, along with that blue line, if they can just stay on their feet. But yeah, I have the Red Wings missing the playoffs in 7th in the Atlantic with 88 points. In 6th place, I have the Buffalo Sabres, a team that should just get better every year. And I actually like the depth on this team a lot more than some other teams, especially down the middle, bringing in guys like Ryan McLeod and Sam Lafferty. But the questions for me are on the blue line and in net. I know everyone loves UPL because he had such a good year last year. He had a really good stretch towards the end of the season, especially. But how much are we really buying into that? I mean, how come he wasn't the starter all year? And Devin Levi, I don't know. I just feel like I need a little bit more time with these goaltenders. I love the move bringing in Bowen Byram, especially when they were able to get other depth forwards in the offseason. But I just don't think I'm there yet with the Sabres. I have them getting better, going from 84 points last year to 90 points this year. But in a division this tough, I just don't think they're there yet to make the playoffs. So I have them getting 6th in the Atlantic. Hot take alert, I have Tampa Bay coming in 5th in the Atlantic and missing the playoffs for the first time in I can't even remember how long, but I'm just tired of this team. Like I said with the LA Kings in my Pacific Division ranking video, how I was just kind of tired of that roster. I'm just tired of this team. If anyone saw my playoff prediction video last year, this was like my one upset in the first round, and it's the only match I got wrong. I had the Lightning upsetting and beating the Panthers, who obviously ended up winning the cup. And watching that series was just so frustrating. It felt like the Lightning had no heart. Nikita Kucherov was just absolutely shut down, and Stamkos was really the only one producing. And now he's gone. They bring in Jake Gensel, who I guess is a fine replacement, but he's not your captain. They lose Sergachev on the blue line. Is Hedman really going to be able to pick up all that slack the depth scoring on the blue line. Maybe they don't have really much other depth on the blue line. Their top six is getting old. Their bottom six are a bunch of no names, basically. I do think Vasilevsky will have a bounce back year. I think he underperformed last year, and he's capable of being a top five goalie in the league again. It's about time for this team to drop out of the playoffs and make room for some of the other up and coming teams that are getting better every year while this team continues to get worse. This core is absolutely still solid enough to make the playoffs, but with the loss of Stamkos and Sergachev, this was just my signal to finally get this team out of the playoffs. Not that I'm like a huge Lightning hater, but after they basically got destroyed in that first round last year, I'm kind of just done with this team. So I have them getting fifth, scoring 92 points in the regular season and missing the playoffs. And yes, finally, it's the year that the Ottawa Senators are back in the playoffs. With the additions of David Perron, Michael Amadio, Noah Gregor, and a healthy Josh Norris and Shane Pinto for hopefully a whole year, this team's core top nine forward depth, all of it, it is elite. It is enough to be a playoff team. I think the loss of Jacob Chikrin can free up Thomas Chabot a little bit more offensively on the blue line, and the addition of Nick Jensen just kind of basically replaces that defensive depth, hopefully. And of course, the big one, the zinger, the signing of Linus Ullmark from the Boston Bruins, ex-Vezina Trophy winning goaltender, which has been a huge struggle for Ottawa in the past few years. I do think Ullmark makes this team a lot better. I think it gives the guys in front of him some fight, some heart, some passion to actually play for a goalie that has such a positive attitude and winning mentality and just good record the way Ullmark does. I think Brady Tkachuk is going to be more disciplined this year and more winning oriented, less frustrated. That's just going to make him that much better of a leader and a captain for this team. I have lots of positive things to say, and I feel like Ottawa fans say this every year that, they should be better. And although they haven't shown it and they've just been a huge disappointment every single year, I think this is the one that Ottawa gets back in the playoffs as the wild card one, fourth in the Atlantic. I think it's really important for Ottawa to get off to a good start this season because it seems like every year they're already out of it by November and December. If they can just rally early on and get some good team chemistry going with some of these new guys and this new goaltender, then I think they have a really good shot to fight till the end and play for a playoff spot all the way into April. Personally, I have them in fourth place in the Atlantic, wild card one, and Ottawa. We'll see you in the playoffs. I went kind of back and forth with 2 and 3, but I finally decided to go with Boston at third in the Atlantic with 105 points, which is still a very solid year. I think the main headline here is Jeremy Swayman holding out on his contract because he knows he has all the leverage. And although, as he should, and he's good enough to be able to do that, is that really, what you want if you're a Boston Bruins fan? It's like, yeah, you want him to get paid. You want him to stay. I don't know. I personally just, on my teams, prefer guys that are willing to take pay cuts and not wait out, to get a max contract. Especially with Ullmark leaving, Swayman's going to have a heavier workload. I think his numbers are going to go down. He's still an elite goaltender, and Jonas Korpisalo is going to be a decent backup, I think, as well. Their blue line is still one of the best in the league, especially with the addition of Nikita Zadorov. Their top six is still one of the best in the league, even though they too are kind of getting older. Marchand's going to be, 36, 37 years old. Their depth scoring might struggle a little bit. I don't know how that third line is going to look. At the end of the day, Boston is still a solid team. They're still going to make the playoffs. I originally had them first and then second, and I dropped them all the way down to third. If anyone has them above 3, I don't blame you at all, but I have Boston getting third in the Atlantic with 105 points. Coming in second in the Atlantic, I have the defending Stanley Cup champions in the Florida Panthers. They lost some really key pieces that made this team super successful. I still think they probably have the best top 9 in the NHL. One of the better blue lines, especially their blue line depth. I mean, all 6 defensemen are some of the best in the league. Sergei Bobrovsky, still one of the best goaltenders in the league. But I do have them regressing a little bit, maybe just a bit of a Stanley Cup hangover. Kind of like Vegas. I mean, Vegas, after they won the Stanley Cup, barely even made the playoffs as a wildcard team. Bobrovsky can have his regular season struggles. He is an elite playoff goaltender. I mean, we saw it 2 years in a row now, but he's getting on the older side of things. And if he gets injured, who's their backup? Is it Spencer Knight? Like, I don't even know after they lost Stolars. Their fourth line, I don't know any of the guys on the fourth line, but that might not matter too much with how good their top nine is. I don't know. The exit of Brandon Montour and some of the other guys they lost, I do think they'll get a little bit worse than they were last year, but still just one of the best teams in the league. I have them getting second in the Atlantic. That is just absolutely nothing to be ashamed of there. Florida coming in at number 2, and we'll get to, yeah, hot take coming in here at number 1. See what you guys think. Before all the haters say anything, this is not a playoff prediction, this is the regular season. I do have the Maple Leafs getting the most points in the East this year with 115. I like the additions of Chris Tanev and OEL on the blue line, and their new coach, I think, is going to change the mindset and the play style of this team. I don't think they're going to let in as many goals. The Leafs fan base really seems to like Joseph Woll in net, and even if he kind of has a fallback year, Anthony Stolarz coming in is a huge addition. He literally led the league last year in save percentage. So a super solid tandem, I think, right there, more than people realize. This blue line is a lot better than it has been in recent years if Chris Tanev and OEL can come in and be the defensemen that they are known to be. Their top 6 has some of the best scoring depth in the league, and you still have guys like Max Domi and Calle Yarncroke there in the bottom 6, so I don't think Matthews is going to score 70 again. I think he's kind of a lock for 50 goals. I don't think he'll win the Rocket Richard again, but I think this team is just going to be better together, and I think they're just going to have a more complete squad this year. I can see them rolling through the regular season. I don't know what it's going to be like when playoffs come around, but that's a story for another video in the future. I have the Leafs getting number 1 in the Atlantic. And yeah, so that's going to do it for not only my Atlantic Division predictions, but all of my division predictions for the 2024-2025 NHL season. Let me know what picks you guys agree with or disagree with. I know the Atlantic can go a lot of ways this year. I'm sure we're going to have some surprise teams making the playoffs and definitely some surprise teams missing it. But if you made it to the end, you're amazing as always. Thank you very much for your support. And yeah, well, I'll talk to you. Peace.